Hi, I'm Liz, and I healed from chronic fatigue syndrome. And I've come back to share my story and the stories of others who have healed. Nothing on this channel is medical advice nor meant to contradict what you yourself have discovered to be true. But I hope by sharing our stories, we can inspire you on your journey. All right, so we're recording a second time because I forgot to press record on this beautiful interview. Angelika, thank you so much for being here and sharing your recovery story from chronic fatigue syndrome and chronic Lyme.
Thank you very much for having me here. I'm really happy to be able to share my story.
All right, so can you just tell our audience a little bit about your life before getting chronically ill?
Yep. So about 16 years ago, I went through a fairly painful divorce with the father of my children, and I ended up a single mom. And it was a very painful experience. I couldn't get over the heartache for quite a long time. Even though I tried counseling for a while, I was still very depressed. And eventually I decided to change my life completely, and I moved to a different country. So I moved from Poland to the UK, and I started my life from the beginning. I left my old job, started a new job, and everything was new. And on one hand, everything seemed to be fine. But then I think I kind of realized later on down the line that I decided to put quite a lot of pressure on myself by doing it.
So can you describe your onset of when things really started to fall apart?
Yeah, so as I was trying to juggle work, full-time work, and looking after my boys and looking after the house, slowly my body started sending me some subtle symptoms, signs that something wasn't right. But I kept ignoring them for years, putting it down to stress and just being overworked. But eventually I started noticing symptoms to do with my hormones, digestive issues, quite a lot of fatigue, and also very frequent infections. Like I would have to take time off work fairly often because I just kept catching every single cold or flu around. So I began to worry a little bit, but I still didn't take these symptoms seriously.
So how bad did it eventually get?
So eventually, after ignoring those symptoms for quite a few years and still pushing through, I ended up with severe fatigue and serious neurological symptoms, which affected my brain and my cognitive function, my vision, my balance, to the point that I was bedridden. I couldn't go back to work. I eventually had to give up work, and I was unable to look after my boys or myself. I had to ask my mom to come over from Poland to look after me and the boys. So that was the worst. That was the point at which I was completely helpless, and I basically thought I was dying.
Yes, and sadly, I know a lot of people listening can relate, but your story doesn't end there. Before we talk about what helped you heal, can you just talk about a few things that didn't help you heal that you tried?
Yes, so following my diagnosis with chronic fatigue and Lyme disease, I tried all possible natural protocols, which most people follow when they get this sort of diagnosis. I tried supplements, herbal protocols, Chinese medicine, acupuncture, all sorts of diets. I went gluten-free, dairy-free. I tried detoxes, juicing, anything I could find on the internet because I kept searching for answers, since the medical community didn't really have much for me.
We've been there. All right. So when did you have an epiphany that led you to the path that would ultimately work for you?
Yes. So at one point when I was just in bed in my sunglasses, because I had very bad sensitivities, light sensitivities, just looking at things online, hoping to find some answers, I came across a therapy called biomagnetism. And obviously skeptical, because at this point I was quite skeptical about anything. I decided to give it a go because it had lots of positive reviews. I was lucky to have a practitioner quite close to me, and I started sessions. And within a few sessions, I felt a massive difference in my symptoms. So that was the first thing that made me realize that I don't necessarily need any harsh protocols or harsh cleansing detoxes, but there is another way of looking at the problem and trying to heal in a more holistic, more natural way. During those sessions with biomagnetic pair therapy, for the first time, I realized that my symptoms were not linked to just having physical imbalances or infections, but they were actually linked to some sort of emotions trapped in my body. And that was the biggest epiphany for me during that treatment. So yes, biomagnetic pair therapy definitely was a turning point in my healing.
Wow. So can you just describe a little bit about how it works?
The therapy is done with the use of magnets if you do it in person, but it's about looking for imbalances in the body and then correcting them. So a practitioner taps into the subconscious mind of the client using a technique called kinesiology. And by asking yes and no questions, they are able to receive answers about imbalances present in the body, which could be linked to the symptoms. And each session is different. Each session reveals a different layer of problems. So during those sessions of biomagnetic pair therapy, my practitioner revealed the things that she was finding in my body through the scanning. It was almost like the body was telling the story of my life. All those emotions and the traumatic situations that happened to me were revealed during the sessions with biomagnetic pair therapy, which felt absolutely surprising at first, but amazing at the same time, because it was such an eye-opener. How was she able to find these things? She didn't know much about me. I didn't tell her the whole story of my life, but it was all there. My body was telling the story of everything that had happened to me before, even precisely to the time and the age that it happened. So that was really, really amazing for me to see that. And it was a massive, massive eye-opener for me.
So we had talked earlier, and there was one other thing that was really helpful for your healing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Of course. So the biomagnetic pair therapy helped me regain my health to almost 80%. I was functional. I was able to train myself as a practitioner because that's how fascinated I was with the therapy. But I knew there was still some more healing that needed to be done. And obviously, as I kept learning and researching and finding out more about body and mind connection, I came across work by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And his work is all about going within, looking at the way we respond to reality and situations in life, looking at our thinking patterns, but it also involves a fairly intense meditation. And as soon as I learned all about this work, I started meditating regularly. And within 3 days of intense meditation, I experienced the most profound healing and spiritual awakening at the same time. And all of my symptoms disappeared. And that's why I believe it was honestly an instantaneous healing at that point. So yeah, that was quite.
All right. Yes, several of my friends love Joe Dispenza, and I read one of his books, and I will link the meditation that you shared with me that you said was your favorite from Joe Dispenza in the video description. Can you just describe a little bit of your life now?
My life now is full of gratitude for my whole healing journey. I have learned so much and I have discovered so much about myself. My life is filled with energy, vitality, and the passion to help other people to heal using all the experiences that I've gone through and all the wisdom and information that I've learned in the past over 10 years. I used to believe that my illness was a curse. Like most people do. That's what when we go through this, when the symptoms are there and we can't find the way out, it seems like we've been cursed with this problem. But eventually, for me, I realized this was a blessing, one of the biggest blessings in my life. I don't regret any of the things that happened to me because I became a completely new person because of my experience. And it's only possible to see this once we heal.
And did you have a final message for people watching today?
My final message would be never give up hope. We are so much more powerful than we think in terms of healing ourselves. All we need to do is believe in the possibility of healing, because the biggest problem that I did see in myself and also some of my clients is people don't seem to have the faith to recover. And this is so crucial in recovery. And also try to realize that you have everything you need to heal within yourself. You don't need people outside of you or magical pills to get better. It's all within you. With the right mindset, with the right approach, it is possible to heal and find all the answers by listening and tuning into that little voice which is in our heart telling us what to do.
So powerful, Angelika. Thank you so much for sharing your inspiring recovery story with us. I really appreciate your vulnerability and your powerful wisdom. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been lovely being able to share my story and lovely chatting to you. Thank you so much.
All right. All right. The first take was amazing. This was even better.
Well, then it was probably supposed to happen like this. We always have to trust the universe that there was higher reason for that.
I love your outlook on life.
Maybe there was just one little tiny word or sentence that I didn't say in the previous one, and I said in this one that's gonna, get to somebody and help them heal. We don't know that.
Anyway, this was so good, Angelika. It was really inspiring, and you do look glowing. So thank you so much. And I appreciate you sharing your heart and having to go through some of those difficult times twice because of my mistake. But I appreciate that. And I'm glad that you were able to transform this. Yeah, it's just amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Take care.
Yeah, bye.